Welcome to Maker Camp.
Today's guest is behind some of the Hollywood's biggest productions of sound effects. Some of the biggest ones like Iron Man 2, Ratatouille, and Guardians of the Galaxy, which you just saw last night, right?
For work purposes.
Yes, it was entirely for research. That's
Not
right.
because I'm so excited about that movie.
That's right. We're meeting up with Kyrsten Mate over at Industrial Light and Magic, and she's going to give us a tour behind the scenes and how we take regular sounds and make them the soundscapes of the universe.
And remember to stick around for today's project, Found Sound Effects.
Oh, wow. Got that one through. So let's get excited and get ready to make something great.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Camp Director Paloma.
And I'm Camp Director Burke. Now, as always, the great thing about the internet is it's a two-way street. So if you have any questions or comments, head on over to our Maker Camp Google Plus community page, submit some questions, and we might answer them later in the show.
And, you know, we love our affiliates around here, so if you're an affiliate and you want to appear live with us, go to the affiliate information page and fill out the form. And speaking of affiliates, we have some joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada. The Adelson Thinker Tinkers are joining us, so let's go ahead and check in with them. Hi! Hi! We're so happy to have you today. There's so many of you.
What enthusiasm.
I am so excited to hear about what you make and what you do. So let's meet a few of you. Come on up and say hi. And so why don't you tell us what your name is and what's your favorite thing to make?
Hi, I'm Zoe, and my favorite thing to make is a keyboard with little bits.
That's awesome. I haven't played with little
nice.
bits yet, so when I start, I'll call you to give me a tutorial.
One of our earlier guests.
Yeah, we had little bits on last week, and they were great. You should check it out. It was a really fun hangout. All right, and what is your name and what is your favorite thing to make?
I'm Samantha, and my favorite thing to make is probably a robot that does my homework.
Yeah, robots. We're on the same page.
Yeah,
we're on the same
who can say
page.
no to robots, really.
They're cool. I love robots. They're awesome. Robots are like the coolest thing ever, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so who is our next person? And what is your name and what is your favorite thing to make?
Hi, my name's Abigail, and I make 3D bracelets.
Ooh, 3D bracelets. Those are cool.
3D bracelets.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for
cool.
sharing. I am so excited to spend the rest of the hangout with all of you and to share our next guest with you.
Oh, right, yes. And, we have a great next guest. First of all, Industrial Light and Magic, one of my favorite places ever, aside from me. We are talking over with one of the greatest things, one of my favorite professions in existence, because you're taking sounds, common everyday sounds, and making them into this completely alien world that you go and see in the blockbusters, all the big films out there. You get to see these great movies that take you into this illusion. But today we're going to break down that illusion, and we're going to talk with Kyrsten Mate over at ILM. And how's it going, Kyrsten? Let's see what we can. Let's hear what we can discover.
Kyrsten, thank you for joining us. I think you have to unmute yourself there. Just clicking the microphone button.
Sorry.
No worries. So thank you so much for joining us. And can you maybe start us off with a description of who you are and what does a sound effects editor do?
I am Kyrsten Mate, and I work with Skywalker Sound, and I work as a sound effects editor and sound designer. Usually sound designer looks at the overall sound of the entire film and chooses a direction sort of some things can go, especially when it's not obvious, especially if it's like an alien voice or a spaceship, or even something as subtle as sort of the environmental sounds that you hear. Everything's usually shot on a set, so it sounds like a set. It sounds like everybody's walking on apple boxes, and you just hear the echo from the giant tops of the, the warehouses everything's shot in. So a lot of times you have to recreate a cave sound or a dungeon sound or any location you can think of. And so a sound designer looks at the overall how the whole thing sounds and how it's going to translate to the audience. And a sound effects editor, which is what I also do, is takes all the bits and makes that happen.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, I never really
So
thought
cool.
about what it would be like to watch a movie without that. It's such an influential part of the entire movie process that I would bet I would be completely freaked out if I saw a movie without all of the incredible work that your team does.
Now, yeah, Kyrsten, one of the things that we want to really talk about is this. One of the neat things about your job is that it is you're doing your best when people don't even notice that these sounds are normal. So why don't you take us through the steps that an everyday sound to something that you would see in the movie, like listen in the movies?
Well, what we usually do is watch the film a lot of times with the director, hopefully with the director if he's not too busy looking at visual effects, and then you kind of get ideas from them what their vision is, and then you say, how can I make that sound, or how can I create that sound out of nothing? Then you make a list usually of what you want to do. You have various ideas, you try them out, you record new things. A lot of times we do a lot of processing with either outboard gear or with plugins in Pro Tools to change the sounds and make them different than actually what we recorded, and that's just the beginning part. Then we go in and spot it all to the picture, cut it all up, layer all the sounds together, because usually not one thing recorded makes up the whole sound of one thing on screen. And then the end part is we all take it to the stage, we mix all the parts of the soundtrack together, and then they put it all into one packet, and that's what you watch at the movies.
Great. So can you tell us a little bit about how you record the sounds and that you use for these kind of layered mixing?
Sure. So do you want me to do my little demo of what I've got here?
Yes, please.
So this is kind of a funny. Years ago, a long time ago, we were recording something, and we had a big metal file cabinet, and we had taped whatever we were recording onto the file cabinet just to hold it. It was like gaffer's tape or something really sticky. And then we pulled the tape off, and the microphone happened to be on and in there, and it sounded really awful. And so we went back and we put a contact mic on it, and we pulled the tape off the file cabinet, and when we did that, it sounded like ripping flesh and all this just really, really disturbing stuff, and it resonated in the cabinet. I mean, it also had a kind of weird metallic quality. So I thought I would show a picture. This is Groot from the new Guardians movie, and as you see on the trailer, he suddenly pops up all his Grootness. You know, he grows, and they call it hulking up as Groot. And so he's made of wood, so I put in wood stuff, but also there's a few other sounds in there to kind of show his power. And I thought, this isn't what we did for the film, but I thought another thing that would be fun to add was my new version of all this, which is a cardboard box and some packing tape. And then I have my recorder here. And I wanted to show you this one because this is actually a prosumer deck. It's like you could buy it. Just even probably 6-7 years ago, you would spend about $10,000 to get a nice recording package together, and this is the high end, and you could get a low end that's almost as good. This is like $500. So if somebody wanted to go make a film and do really high quality sounds, you could do it. And this one has it's a little contact mic, and it's got sticky stuff on the back. And when you attach a microphone to something that is, here, I'll put it here. I'm just sticking it on to the box itself, because when you're making vibrations onto something that's resonant, and it has its own kind of quality, in this case cardboard, it has its own sound that's more than just the sound of the tape separating that you usually hear. The mic is picking up the vibrations as well. So let's see. I'm going to kind of just fake demonstrate this, but I would put on my little headphones. These are my other headphones. and run the recorder and just turn it on and record. And then I had this tape here, and I was just doing various things of either fast or, or like really slow kind of tape pulls.
Oh, interesting.
And the tape pulling off kind of made a nice kind of wooden-like quality, and that was resonant and larger sounding than it sounds like with plastic tape. Then I went and put it in my, loaded it into my Pro Tools session here, and found the best bits because I did a bunch of takes. And so I have no idea how this is going to sound to you guys. But this is like one of the sounds, just a little short thing.
Ooh.
It's got a lot of texture to it, which is great because I'm looking for texture because he has little bits coming off him.
Mm-hmm.
And that also has power. So when we're talking about how things come to me, the shot of Groot came to me like this. Nothing, because it's all made in the computer. So we go through and I say, well, he's got some wood, so let's put some wood in there for him. And some more wood. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Oh, it's coming through really
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Great. And then creaks. And then I want the pop sound because that's the animation. It kind of blooms all of a sudden. So put a snap. And then this is for his power. And this last sound is actually a fireball. So then we add it all with our new sounds. And all together.
Ooh.
So that way we have a little texture. It definitely has a wood sound. It has a power at the end. It's got a bloom from the fireball. It's just, you just try to get they wanted something that connotated his wood, but also was the concept of this is his version of the Incredible Hulk bulking up. So that's what they asked for.
Yeah, you got to have a fireball, even if it doesn't call for it. You got to add a fireball. That's the main way to do things.
I like how the fireball gives it a little more space. It seems to give it like a weight to it, which is really neat. So it's
almost
nice.
like a warmth.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Like
fireball
a
work. But seriously, that's really cool. My next question was going to be, how do you put it all together? But that's really great that you can really see
building blocks,
layers
right?
and layers and layers kind of building together to create this really round sound. And when I was watching yesterday, I was like so captivated that it was just like, yeah, no, that's a tree. That's a tree person. That's right there.
Right.
So I say tree person like I don't know that it's an ant, but like it's so cool that there's just all of this like this great sound, and there's just the wood quality for sure. But I can hear the tape, and I can hear all these things.
You hear all the pieces that go together to make this new alien sound.
Yeah. That's
very familiar at the same time, and it feels natural, which I think is really cool about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Let's actually dig in a little bit deeper in this. How does one get into sound editing? I mean, that seems like an interesting story in itself. Where do you even begin to get a career like that? And was there a journey that you had to take to end up at ILM?
Well, actually, I don't work in ILM. I mean, that's part of our company. I work for Lucasfilm, who is the umbrella organization for ILM and Skywalker Sound, because ILM does the visual effects. So I just wanted to make that clear. But I'm no good at visual effects. I have to say that there's no easy direct path to my job, and I ended up in it by accident. But I did when I went to college, I ended up with a broadcasting degree and an emphasis in audio production, thinking I was going to work with bands and recording music. But then I also ended up recording a lot of sound effects for sound design for theater, which I thought was super fun, and I did some radio shows with a lot of sound effects. So I had a lot of recording experience, and then I ended up friend of a friend, if my friend's soon-to-be husband was going to, was offered a job as an apprentice in the sound department, and he couldn't take the job but had just met me and said, I just met this woman who has lots of recording experience and wants to get into film. Do you want to meet her? And they met me and they liked me, so they decided to try me out. And so I have to say I had the skills ready, but most of it was just dropping everything and taking an opportunity, because I wasn't like ready to get into a career or anything right then, but I was like, this is like my golden opportunity. Also at the time, it was right when everybody was switching into digital editing. People were still editing how they had been editing in the 30s, which is like with these little sync blocks and mag tape. And I would stay all night and teach myself all the digital programs, so that when they came in the morning and they'd say, I wonder how you do this, I'd say, oh, you could just do this. And so I became very valuable. So that's how I ended up in that part of that, in the business, and stayed in. And I also really like my job. So there's very long hours, so you have to really like this business to stay in and be excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not? It's such a cool business, and you get to see all the best movies early.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a really, really valuable nugget of information in there that I think is really important for our campers that are maybe just in the end of high school, starting college, maybe they're looking at internships. It's really important to make yourself incredibly useful in those first years. Go above and beyond, and then people will keep you on and give you more opportunities. I mean, I started here not doing anything on the camera, and then somehow they figured out that I'm not terrified of the camera, and now it's all I do. It's all I do all day. So, and it's the best job in the world. So really find something you're passionate about, and be extra helpful and be extra useful, and that really helps you kind of get where you want to go. I think that's really important for campers. And also I want to play a little game now. Okay. Because I want to bring back our affiliate site here from the Adelson Thinker Tinkers. We're going to play Stump the Sound Effects Editor.
Oh dear.
So they're going to play a sound for us. And we're going to see.
I got to turn up my volume.
All right. So Las Vegas, let's hear the first sound.
Ready? Okay, come here.
Big secret. Ooh. Okay, what do you think that sound was?
Well, it sounded like some sort of spring on metal. Somehow.
Interesting. Okay, so what was that?
Yeah.
Front of the camera.
Very nice. Plastic. Good. That's really good. Slinky.
So what kind of sound? What would you use that kind of a sound for? Something that's kind of springy and metallic.
Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody who knows sound knows about the springy metallic Uber sound, which is the laser blasts from Star Wars. So So those are great for all sorts of any futuristic weapons, and especially if you make them kind of silly. It's really fun for kind of any oddball futuristic weapons, or weapons that aren't quite working right, or something like that, that have a little humor to them.
I love that. I love adding that humorous quality when I'm watching a movie and you're just like, wait, what? It completely changes your viewing experience. So that's awesome. Springs
just make you smile. I mean, they're just funny. They just always sound funny. So almost whenever you use a spring kind of thing, it's a lot of times it's an association with humor, like in Toy Story, the spring in his boot, or just anything that goes pop or boing immediately is funny, even if it's not in a funny movie. So
that's a great insight. Campers, you'll have to watch out for that on your when you rewatch things, or when you go and watch Guardians of the Galaxy. Listen to the sounds of all of the weapons going off, and see if you can hear something kind of silly in there. And let's hear the next sound.
More.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That one was interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's some sort of bell-like thing, but I don't think it's a bell, especially like a made bell.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it is. Maybe it's the outside of a bicycle bell, but with something softer on it. I really don't know.
Interesting. Let's see if we stump the sound effects editor.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, hold on. Let's see. What do we have? Oh!
What is it?
Oh.
Catcher.
Oh, wind catcher. Oh, and it has bells on it.
Very nice.
But it does have a soft quality to it.
It does.
Which is
Yeah,
great.
because it's hitting the feathers and the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
What do you think you'd use something like that for?
Well, a lot of chimes and bells, and when things like that, you'll use you can use them layered into either winds or water to be magical. So, maybe in, for example, in Lord of the Rings, there were crystal and a little bit of bell sounds in all the water at Rivendell. So you didn't know it, but you heard this just beautiful, peaceful Zen garden water all the time around the elves, because the elves are so magical and clean all the time, which I never understood.
Well, now I'm going to have to rewatch it, and I'm so excited to have an
'Cause I
excuse to watch that movie again.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I'll have to take a careful ear to that and see. Because that's kind of a neat way of also conveying a sort of covert point to a character or a set of characters to give them like a theme without even using any words.
Yeah, something soft and ethereal for a very ethereal character. So
Yeah.
very cool.
I've used them in winds and in breaths, and as a thematic thing for in a movie where a woman was always making sort of jewelry, but all the winds around her place, the soft winds, had the chimes, but kind of handmade chimes, not quite bells.
Very cool. I like that.
Sweet. Yeah.
I think we have maybe one more sound coming from our affiliate site. So let's see.
Here you go.
Ooh, okay.
Is it one of those paper snaps you make with the 2 strips of paper and you pop them? I don't know.
Let's
I think
see
that's
what
a
it
good
was.
guess.
That's a really good guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh!
Okay.
There's a
Wow.
finger snap. That's good. It's like a Turkish-style finger snap. That's great.
That was a tricky one.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Very
man.
awesome. Okay, so
It did sound like the.
it did. I was like, that's
it,
definitely what that is.
I was like, if you get this right, I'm going to be very impressed.
Well, you stumped me on
Because
that one.
I heard it and I felt like immediately that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
But then,
Or like what? Yeah, I've seen like toys, paper toys that like. Yeah, but that's awesome. Okay, so what would you use something that's like like snapping sounds or paper? What would you use those things for?
Well, I've used paper, especially kind of almost like the playing cards being flipped sounds in a number of ways. Also in winds with lots of debris in it, and paper stuff coming. Of course, sink paper stuff like somebody knocking paper over. That paper, when it's lots of little bits of it with a lot of sound kind of randomly, is very connotative of chaos. So you could use it where you're trying to add more chaos to, either wind or somebody rifling through things. I've used paper sounds in leaves, shots with leaves or trees and stuff like that. So trying to think, I've used lots of paper rips to add rips, that quality to either flesh rips or arrows through targets or anything like that.
Ugh, gross, but awesome. I actually have a question here that totally reminded me of. Does it become less scary when you see scary movies without the sound coming in? You're just like, oh, this is totally nothing.
I don't know. Yeah, less scary for sure. I don't work on a lot of horror movies, thank goodness, but they're certainly less gruesome without the sound because it's then you're just looking at the makeup, and it kind of is more obvious it's makeup or a visual effect, you know. And then once the sound is in there, I mean, even if people don't register it, that's the reality, you know. You're like, oh, it really is happening, you know, that somebody's being stabbed or whatever.
Yeah, I found that because I do makeup special effects as a hobby, and so I found out that after I started doing that, I was able to start watching scary movies because I was like, oh, they didn't blend that seam very well, so I know that that's a prosthetic. And so like The Walking Dead has become like a show that I watch all the time now because I was so scared of that, and I was like, ah! But now like horror movies and things like that, totally easy.
Yes, yeah, because you can see, you know that it's not real because you can see the parts that made it. So yeah,
exactly. And you know, we actually have a sound for everyone that we want. Everyone, campers at home, we're gonna play a sound and just kind of think about what you think it might be. Okay, so we're gonna play a game here. Okay, let's get that sound. Ooh. Okay. So campers at home, think about it. And now we're gonna play it along with a still image to give you a hint. Kind of a big hint there. But Kyrsten, can you tell us about your dragon cars?
Ooh, yes.
Sure. So that's my other job, which doesn't pay very well, but it's making our mutant vehicles, and those are the serpents. We made 2 of them. And that sound is a sound I made to play along with them out of their. They have a sound system on them, and they have a set of sounds. They have purrs, and they kind of get upset, and they have a snapping sound and a roar. So if you want, did you want me to tell you what I made it out of? Because it's kind of surprising.
Absolutely.
So that one, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I know that the beginning part of it, where it sounds sort of irritated, is a sound I recorded many years ago of a baby elephant who is very upset when he was put in the pen next to his mother and not next to his mother. And so he made this awful sound. And so I recorded him, but then it's been processed a bunch, obviously, because it was, you know, I did the old sound as I pitched it down and stretched it out and added some EQ. But it's mixed in with, I believe the end of it is alligators that were kind of, every time you turned on the air conditioning at the old Hall of Sciences, they got really upset and they would start to make the guttural sound. So I recorded that, and I think it might be mixed in with a big cat, like a panther, as well. And
so dragons are made of elephants, and alligators, and panthers.
Yes, yeah. Panthers and big cats have really kind of a good attack sound that a lot of animals don't have. You know, they have the sudden rush of air. So you're looking for parts of sound that connotate what you need it to connotate, that it's coming for you or it's about to attack. Is like a sudden rush of air or a heart attack of the sound.
Great.
Wow,
That's really interesting.
And I imagine that like the panther would have like a nice lower register that kind of helps with the size of, like, to give you an idea of the size of the creature.
Panthers, they don't have they're kind of mid-range, but what I do is I EQ out a lot of the high hissy kind of parts of their voice, so it all mixes in together. So I listen to all the kind of sounds I want and EQ out parts that aren't helpful and kind of raise parts of their voice that are helpful, so it blends together better. And I usually put the whole thing, I make it all, I time stretch it or compress it so that it has the same rate in their voice of how they're talking time-wise. And then I'll also usually then put the whole thing in a tiny bit of reverb so it just kind of bakes them all together.
Yeah, so
Wow.
that's interesting that you take each individual sound and then you kind of pick that apart and then you layer it and you find like sounds and you find sounds that sound like this. It's very cool how you
And you're
both
kind of just
edit
stretching them and or compressing them based on the needs that you want, or the little tiny bit of the sound the original sound that you like, and then expanding that to what you need it for.
Yeah.
That's really great. Oh man, that's so cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, Kyrsten, thank you so much for coming by today and giving us, our ears, a wonderful range of sounds that, we usually sometimes take for granted at the movies because they're just so well blended into the mix that, you don't even realize where they're coming from. And that's the coolest thing about it. That's what I really love about that, is that by doing that, you immerse the audience even more so than just the visuals.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. We have a lot of questions coming up from our camplers and from our affiliates. So right after this, we'll get to those. And we're back with DIY Music Week. We were talking with Kyrsten Mate over about our sound effects and sound editing, which we know that if we go over to Adelson Thinker Tinkers, Adelson Thinker Tinkers, we're gonna. They have a few questions actually for you. So what do you guys? Yeah, let's get some of them out there.
Okay.
I'm Lily. What is your favorite place to look for sounds?
Good question.
Wow, yeah, that's a great question.
Well, I don't think I have a favorite place because it just depends on the film and what I'm looking for. And I have to say, most of the best sounds are serendipitous. But, they just are kind of, you just luck out. And a lot of times you'll go record one thing and you think it's going to be super awesome, and it isn't. But you end up with something else that you'd never expected. A lot of times I try to keep I either write it down or have a little catalog in my head if I hear a cool sound. So, like, I was at my bank and I had to go upstairs to an upper floor in kind of a deserted hallway, and they had the craziest, like, machine room ambience, like, going in the hallway, and it sounded like I was right in a spaceship. And so, I made a little note to myself to go back and record the ambience there. So if I do another alien spaceship film, then I would have an ambience that would be fun to work with. So it's basically more about keeping your ears open all the time, because you never know what you're going to need in the future.
So if I'm hearing you right, what you're telling us is that bankers are aliens.
Well, bankers' hallways are from outer space. Maybe that's it.
Sounds like facts to me.
Thank you so much for that question, and let's hear another one from the affiliates.
One more from the affiliates. Yeah.
Jason, what inspired you to make the Serpent Twins?
Oh boy. Well, I have to say that my husband John Saragardi is the driving force behind the Serpent Twins. And sort of the inspiration of the look, he really wanted to make something as a barrel train, which is how they kind of ended up in segments, things that we could take apart and reconfigure, or, that was not just big one block mass thing, and thought snakes or serpents would be a really fun way to do that. And then the look of them, I really wanted to do stuff based on kind of the Chrysler building and Deco era gargoyles. So that's cool. Kind of where their face is, and their kind of their stylized look. There's a lot of Deco curves, Art Deco curves, and the metal work then, and sheet metal work was pretty amazing. All the airplane bodies and cars at the time, so that was sort of an inspiration for that. And then we also took inspiration from Nordic sources, which is, one of them is Jormungand. So, he's the serpent that Thor fights. So we decided to go in the direction of that they have some Nordic imagery, and the layout of their wings is very based on Nordic imagery. we used a lot of spirals and stuff like that.
Very interesting. Yeah, those are really cool. I mean, I love seeing them on volume 35, which is one of my favorite issues of Make Magazine because it's all about danger. But it's also like they have a very cool style. They're very individual. You know, they're unique. They're interesting in a way. And I actually hadn't thought about the Norse kind of influence, but I can totally see that now that you bring it up. You're blowing my mind today. You're making me reevaluate everything I ever thought I knew.
Yeah, the really nice thing that I love the Art Deco style, and yeah, you were mentioning the train that it creates because they're kind of separate segments. And what's really cool about that is as you're driving around, it gives a tail whip kind of effect that allows you to kind of weave your way through crowds at Maker Faire or other shows.
There are
a
lot of crowds at Maker Faire.
Oh,
you do have to carve your own path.
And it's such nice tight turns that you can create, so it can kind of loop in on itself, and it's a really sweet effect. And I love the sounds that come from it too. It really adds to like the essence of this is, even though it's a mechanical looking beast, it has this kind of like life to it.
Yeah, it has a really good solid like warmth, and it creates this great atmosphere that you just like that. No, that's a real thing. That's not a machine anymore. Even though you can see machine parts, it becomes this living, breathing, sometimes literally thing. Yeah. So that's really awesome. We love it.
We were definitely inspired by the La Machine over in France and England. We saw them in Amsterdam, and how they use machine arts as puppets. And so that's why we wanted to make the Serpent Twins more of a puppet-like thing, and we practiced a lot with the driving to try to give them a life, even though they're a mechanical thing, that they had their own life and looked autonomous. So we drive them like puppets.
Well, you certainly accomplished that. When I saw it at Maker Faire, it had that perfect illusion to it. It really was solid. I appreciate it. I encourage everyone else to check it out.
Yeah.
Now I know that we have a couple questions coming from our counselors.
Yeah, the counselors have been very patiently waiting to participate. Hello, Brian and Pierre.
Hello.
Hi. So can we get the first question from our campers?
Kalus asks, which composers or sound designers inspire you?
Ooh.
Composers, well, there's lots of, I like lots of composers. It's easier with sound designers because I work with, luckily, like the best sound designers I think in the world. Here at Skywalker Sound, we have Gary Rydstrom, Ben Burt, who did the sound design for Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Chris Boyes, who is the sound designer for Guardians of the Galaxy, did Titanic, did the Iron Man, does a lot of Marvel films. Shannon right now is doing lots of work, and everybody is so good here. It's hard to, they're all good at different things, and they all inspire me. Randy, Tom, it's just everybody here. Composers, I have to, sometimes the best composing jobs that composers I've worked with have been that they've given a space with the sound design. So it's not always, they're not always like the best composer just to listen to, but it's the best composer for the film. I have to say I forgot his name, but on K-19, the very nice composer, I had to do a bunch of sonic undersea radar sounds for the submarines, and he wanted to get my cut of all the pings and how they were using the sonar to find things, so that he could compose the music kind of around the rhythm and not get in the way of that because it was a story point. And actually, Daft Punk on Tron said, there's places where I think our score should take a back seat, because the effects are what driving the scene here, and we drive the scene there. And when you trade off with composers like that, it's super awesome. It gives both places both departments places to breathe and play off each other. It's really fun.
Yeah, and it's great when you work in an environment where everybody is inspired by everyone else, because you get something that's greater than the sum of all the individual parts. You just get this really, an environment that's great for creation and working together, and I love that. And also,
Yeah.
like when you're working with people, sometimes it's great, like you said, it's the best composers that you work with are not the ones that have the best music, but it's that they are willing to work with you to create something beautiful together. So
Right, yeah.
I love that kind of collaboration.
It's about like tackling problems from different angles, and also if every once in a while inspiration doesn't always run high the whole time. So it's always good to have someone else who's on full blast that time to put you back into the game.
Yeah.
So counselors, you got another question?
Yes, I have a question from Vishal, who'd like to know what is actually the most complicated sound you've ever made or heard.
I don't know. I think they're all complicated. I don't know if they are asking like what is the most kind of difficult to put together or not. I mean, because even tiny sounds can be very complicated. There is a bubble pop sequence in Ice Age 2 where there's a mud pit that's blowing. The mud pit has got bubbles, and the Scrat and the girl Scrat are trying to catch one nut. And every bubble had to kind of sound a little different, and they all kind of had to sound like it was rising in pitch and musical, but not get in the way of the music. And it had to have a storyline arc to the sound of the bubbles. So that was pretty complicated, just because each bubble had to have the right kind of attack, but it also had to have the right tone and the right pitch to work with everything. And then you're also cutting against music and their dialogue and the visual effects. You have to keep all of those things in mind. So even those little kind of sequences can be very complex.
Man, who would have ever thought bubbles could be so complicated?
I know. That was fun though, that section.
And to have so much work to make everything work just right in concert. And that's actually one more question I want to reach into for you. You've worked you worked with some amazing people in the past, including Walter Murch. Do you have any advice for our aspiring campers out there about how to basically guide themselves through their own creative endeavors, or more specifically, how to shape some things that have shaped your experiences around with sound, and how you've grown as this maker?
I would say specifically with Walter Murch as an example, the thing that I realized early on, because I was originally a film major, and the part I liked best was editing. And one of the best creative crafts I liked was collage. I liked putting lots of different things together and making something new and making something that was more than the sum of its parts. So that's one of the things I really learned, is that the editing can change the original piece, either if it's visual or the sound. The editing can make it completely different than it was, and Walter really shapes a film by how he puts together all the parts of the film in a different way. The shot that follows the shot before it can inform that shot and change the meaning of things. And your sounds, when you put them together, can change the meaning of what it is. It can make it softer or happier or sadder or more terrifying. My advice is to be open to hearing all that stuff, instead of trying to make the biggest, loudest, craziest face punch or whatever. That you actually try to think of what kind of emotion you're trying to convey to the person hearing it, even if they don't realize it, and then make stuff along that lines instead of just making it sound cool, which is different.
Yeah, I think really mastering the art of subtlety. Like, first just get out there and try stuff, and then after you've worked on it a while, really mastering how to make something simple and effective is a really great way. And you know what you've shown us today is so indicative of that when you are doing something amazingly well, no one will notice that you've done it at all. And you've completely opened my eyes, and I'm really excited to watch some of these movies again and like look for those bubble pops, look for the sound of those chimes in the movies.
And get really excited with it, like just what goes into it and all the work to make everything work so smoothly.
Yeah, I think it's so amazingly important that we had you on today, because it just completely opened my eyes, and I've had so much fun talking with you about this. So thank you so much for sharing what you do and your passion and these very fun and interesting stories about sound. It's been absolutely amazing having you with us.
Oh, you're super welcome.
Awesome.
And I hope you'll stay with us, because we're going to go back to the counselors and be able to chat about today's daily project and some of the work that the campers have done on our community page.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Paula. So here is what the campers have been working on. Here are some LED kaleidoscopes from Boys and Girls Club of Hilton Head Island.
Looks great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I saw pictures of this on the community
cool
page.
Shot
they
right
look
there.
great.
Oh man, I love that.
It comes through so well. Oh,
Yes.
so cool.
That's beautiful.
I never would have thought to use that, but it looks great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't even think of that myself. Yeah.
All right, so who's up next?
And then here are water blasters, which are making waves at the Hudson River Park Makerspace.
Water blasters, that's a great way to spend your summer for sure. And I love the little structures that were in the back of that last picture too. It looks like they're making a whole bunch of stuff over there.
Oh wow, yeah, absolutely.
And then here is the Pakistan Science Club, which is making motor-controlled battle cars.
That's
Battle
awesome.
cars with
That
flyers.
is so cool.
That's great. I would never have thought of that. Really good idea. They've been posting so much stuff. They're really great and well involved. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very funny. So campers, we want to see your projects this summer. Show us what you made, what you've learned, and what you want to make next.
So the daily project for the day is Found Sound. This project is perfect for makers of all levels, and it's using things you find around your house to make really cool sound effects for recording for projects and for if you're doing movies. I'm going to show you a couple examples from this project. One is the laser blaster, which is just a tin or aluminum can and a spring, which you guys saw earlier, which is one of the sounds the affiliate site showed. And then another project that is in this one is doing a lightsaber sound, which is just using a speaker or buzzer, a microphone, and you have the speaker play a single tone, and you swing the microphone back and forth, so you get kind of that Doppler wah-wah effect. So for more information and more projects that are in this specific project, go to check out the product description on the MakerCamp Google Plus community site, as well as Make Projects.
Great. Yeah, you know, we love seeing what you post, so keep posting those on the community page. And believe me, this is such an easy project, but the sound that you get, you can't even imagine how great it is. So definitely check it out and post videos and pictures on the community page.
That's right. We're looking forward to all of them. So yeah, that's about all we have for time for today. But we have, you know, tomorrow is really exciting. We got another great thing coming up. We are going to explore the world of Makey Makey. Now, one of the earlier projects for Makey Makey includes making a banana piano, which I'm trying to visualize, and that's quite the exciting thing to put together. You know, you can't really usually just eat a banana, but there's so much more that you can do with Makey Makey. We're going to actually explore all of the cool things that you can do. So that'll be up for tomorrow.
It's going to be great, and I can't wait to see you there. So if you were inspired by anything you saw on the show today, remember, do try this at home. Goodbye, campers.
Bye.